This video is the silly story of how I got to have a 10-foot leggy indeterminate tomato plant as a houseplant. There are links below in the description for useful tomato growing videos, one with tons of tips and tricks, and one explaining determinate and indeterminate tomato growth patterns. So the first year I lived in this house, I planted tomato seeds, and I thought, oh, this window is south-facing and sunny, it'll be great. It was probably a combination of being a little bit too hot and dry, and also not having quite enough sun at the time of year that I planted, which was February. Those two things combined created a super fast-growing, leggy tomato plant. It was reaching for the sun that wasn't always there, and desperate for light, and super hot, and it shot up. I ended up keeping it inside because I was like, this guy's not going to survive the outdoor conditions. Eventually it dried up and died in the fall. And then the following year, I'm planting my seeds, and my fiance goes, oh, are you going to plant that monster tomato again? I loved it. And I was like, what? Are you insane? I'm not doing that. That was a failure. It was ridiculous. He's like, but I loved the smell, and it was so nice to have it inside. It was like a jungle plant. He gave me his dreamy eyes, and so I did it. And it is now an annual tradition to have a monster tomato plant in the house. Did you know tomatoes don't actually need pollinators? Of course, pollination would likely improve with pollinators and wind, but the tomato blossom contains both male and female parts, so it can self-pollinate. It just needs to be shaken ever so slightly to dislodge the pollen from the stamen in the male portion to the stigma in the female portion. Yield is not our game here. It's really just the cool foliage aspect and the smell when you rub the stems. It's kind of fun to have an indoor tomato plant, I gotta say. Super weird. Never thought I'd do it, but it's something we do now. The moral of the story is, if you live in a lower growing zone, don't seed in February without a grow light, unless you now have the desire to grow yourself a house tomato plant. And maybe pick a determinate tomato variety. They tend to be smaller and bushier. Probably a smarter move.